I'm Kayla Pollock. As most of you know, I was severely vaccine injured. I'm Kayla Pollock. As most of you know, I was severely vaccine injured by my booster shot, taking Moderna in February 2022. For the last 2 years, I've been trying to get my story out so that I can have a better life for myself by trying to crowdfund so that I can stay at home. My biggest concern has been my 9-year-old son. He was 7 when this happened, and all they wanted to do was either put me in long-term care or offer me medical assistance in dying, which I was offered 3 times. I won't lie, I considered it. Many of you have already heard my story, and that's not what I'm here to talk about. What I'm here to talk about today is something I need help with. If you do feel compelled to donate, you can always go to my Gives and Go, which is located at opkayla.com, or you can go to my Gives and Go, which is always located at the bottom of the Canadian Independent article, which I hope to be able to connect to the bottom of this. My biggest concern right now is that I cannot get a hold of my member of parliament. I first contacted my mayor. He was a wonderful man. I live in Bradford, West Gwillimbury, which is actually connected to York Simcoe. And he's a really nice guy and took my story very seriously. He told me that he would call Carolyn Mulroney's office and call Scott Davidson's office right away. Hopefully, that I could speak with both of them. He told me that he was friends with both of them and this shouldn't be a problem. Carolyn Mulroney's office did call me back right away. Her office staff was great. Carolyn wasn't available at the time. However, it seemed that Scott was the one I needed to get a hold of. I have not been able to do that. I've been able to get a hold of Dr. Drew easily. I've been able to get a hold of Tammy Peterson easily. I've been able to get a hold of Dr. Phil if I want to, but I can't get a hold of my local MP. My story's gone around the world, and yet I can't get a hold of my local MP. We have a problem here, a big, big problem. I need your help. In order for me to get even some help, I need to be able to reach out to my local MP who is either ignoring me or not seeing my story somehow.
I'll pause it here for 1 second. I have to make sure that we are live across platforms, which we are. Can't get a hold of MP. You know what the amazing thing is, by the way? I'll play this video out because I think it needs to be played in its entirety. Google Kayla Pollock Moderna. Google that, and if you're in Canada, see the search results that come up. I'll let this play out.
You can do. Instead of just liking this video, giving it a heart, or retweeting it, or re-Xing it, I don't know what you call it anymore, please do this one simple thing. Hashtag or link Scott Davidson to this video. His tag will be below. And also give your 2 cents worth about my condition. Give your opinion about what should be done. Give your opinion about how sick it is that the government isn't listening to me. Don't be rude, don't be mean, just give your opinion. Help me by sending him a few words. But if we all start to take my video and we all start to send it to him, then maybe he will get the video and maybe he will understand that I'm trying to get a hold of him. Email's not working, mail isn't working, going through his constituents isn't working, going through his friends isn't working. I'm either being directly ignored on purpose or I'm falling through the cracks, which happens all the time.
But there might be just too many people that are trying to get a hold of this particular rep or government officials for this particular reason. This is Kayla Pollock. She was on the channel. We did an interview. She explained everything in detail. She's suing Moderna. Google Kayla Pollock Moderna. You'd think maybe some legacy media up in Canada would be interested in covering that story. Go look at the results, put in news and see what happens.
This is bureaucracy by all means. What I'm hoping we can do is tag him in that Canadian Independent video, the short and sweet 13-minute video that not only tells my story, but also very sweet and very easily gives my gives and go and it just wraps it up and gives you all the information that you need. It shows the evidence from the doctors in the hospital proving that my vaccine injury was actually
Directly the result of.
supported by these doctors. And also there's an audio recording there from the neurologist before all the testing was done, who says, I believe it's my gut reaction that this is not going to be cancer. It's going to be caused by the vaccine. And I've seen many, many people like you before. So there are many others, he's saying, in this audio recording that I took at the hospital. There's other audio recordings. I am trying to get through with the Vaccine Injury Compensation Board. That's been a nightmare. They just keep halting me. They don't
have records of having filed. It took them what? It took them over a year and a half. I'm not even sure what the latest status is on Dan Hartman, Answers for Sean Hartman, where they initially denied it. Sean Hartman doesn't wake up 33 days after a certain jibby jab. And, the Vaccine Injury Support Program, the VISP up in Canada, says, we can't, it's not related. Be on your way. 18-year-old kids, this happens all the time.
They don't write back. They don't call back within their 48-hour time frame that they give you. It's just been absolute hell. But what I need right now, I need to get a hold of this member of parliament. So like I said, if we can all just do our part and tag this member, I will provide that below. And if anyone who is being tagged in this video could also share and retweet this video along with doing this, that would be a big time bonus. So if you can not only reach out to Scott, but also share this video so that more people are seeing it, so that more people can do it. Remember, the Canadian Independent video is also very important here. So if you guys can do that for me, this will help us work together. Remember, I'm here to help other vaccine injured Canadians and other vaccine injured people from around the world, and so that people can see that this is a global problem and that we need to deal with it now. We are in Canada. We have high expectations for our country. We are losing our country in front of our eyes with censorship, with all of this stuff, and it needs to stop. I'm just one voice who chooses to be loud and chooses to come forward. But I will do that for you guys. I will keep coming out. I will keep doing these things. I just need help in return, getting my voice heard to the right people so that I can help more and get the help that I need in order to live a somewhat normal life. Because right now, I'm losing my life. Please help so that I can continue my mission. Thank you so much.
Imagine in Canada, they didn't offer her care. One of the doctors actually suggested it was psychological. Then the other doctor, if you listen to the recording and you see the Western Standard expose, said, he's seen this. He knows what this is. The government then offered her death because they say, look, you're not going to get any better. You're going to cost us a lot of money. Have you thought about offing yourself? And by the way, I don't really think twice about these things anymore. I think YouTube is up to some effing BS, and I think it's quite clear. The thought goes through your head. Do I start off with this video? I don't want YouTube demonetizing it. Couldn't give a sweet bugger all about that. Don't want YouTube giving me a strike. YouTube, I did my re-education camp on your platform. I know what the rules are. Kayla is allowed sharing her personal story. She's allowed sharing her own personal medical information. She suffered the consequences she suffered from having gotten a Moderna booster after having gotten 2 Pfizer jabs. When did the science ever say you can mix and match like you're taking shots at a bar in Vegas? Who the hell knows? They were moving at the speed of science. The government says to her, have you thought about killing yourself? I mean, you are now a recently developed quadriplegic. You've got a son who is now, his life, I don't know if it's the entirety, has been upended and is now dedicated to taking care of mom. Have you thought about killing yourself? Can you imagine anything more? I mean, it's straight out of a horror movie. You don't need to watch Saw. You don't need to watch The Hills Have Eyes. Just go watch the story of the Canadian government. Have you thought about killing yourself? Oh, we don't call it killing. We don't call it euthanasia. That's also too offensive. We call it maids. Have you got yourself a maid, Kayla? Oh, that's right. It stands for medical assistance in dying. And we're going after the paralyzed, the quadriplegics, the mentally ill. I mean, the Nazis had this program, and it was called mercy killings. And they started off with the exact same targets. You're going to cost us a lot of money. You're not going to get the care you need because we've shipped off a few too many billions of dollars to Ukraine. So it would be much cheaper for us and better for you if, one little needle. It's obscene. And her story needs to be told. I mean, look, and the problem is there's too much of this tragedy going on in the world these days, and it's impossible to keep up with it. And it's impossible to keep up with everybody's story. Look at this. Look at this. Kayla Pollock, Moderna. You would think that a woman who was rendered a quadriplegic by the Moderna jab company just posted some massive losses. You'd think that her suing the company for $45 million in Canada would be news. What do we see here? Okay, so now we're in all of the internet. You got her tweet on Twitter. You've got the Western Standard story. You've got YouTube, that's Dr. Drew. You've got, she made it to Reddit. Then you've got Bonanza Valley Voice, Moderna booster jab renders Canadian woman. Okay. You got Dr. Drew. You got Kayla Pollock. You got Odyssey, whatever that is, Dr. Drew. GoFundMe, Kayla Pollock, Canadian woman, Tammy A. or Tammy L. Substack, Good Pods. Okay, that's what you get in the all. You go to news, right? Because Canadian news outlets should be interested in a story about a Canadian woman rendered a quadriplegic and suing Big Pharma for justice for $45 million, as if all the money in the world could remedy this injustice. Let's see what news is reporting on this in Canada. Western Standard, Dr. Drew, Rare Foundation, Tech ARP, Todayville, and that seems to be it. Oh, maybe I've done something wrong. Maybe I didn't put in the right search terms. CBC. No. How about, let's see, Radio? We're going to have a French lesson today, by the way. How about Radio Canada? No. How about Global News? No. Nothing. No, and why would they cover it? I mean, who subsidizes them? Oh, that's right, the same government that might be directly or indirectly responsible for the damages that the woman is now claiming from Moderna. Interesting. Bond says, I feel so bad for her and all the others who were injured by those injections. We are witnessing absolute capture, absolute corruption, and absolute ignoring of the story. Can you imagine CBC? I mean, I just did that panel up in Ottawa, Canada Strong and Free, where we were talking about media. And I'm saying, like, the media might not be flailing or failing if they actually covered news. If you were not getting subsidized by the government and actually had to succeed on your own merits and compete for clicks and cover the news that people want to hear, maybe they would be covering the Kayla Pollock story. But when you get subsidized, you turn into a big fat hog sucking at the government teat, and you don't want to bite that hand. You think you're going to be the big fat hog and you're going to bite the hand as it comes in to give you some raw meat or donuts? Hell no. Ignore it. CBC, state-funded, $1.4 billion, ignoring it. Radio Canada, state-funded, they're in there with CBC, $1.4 billion. CTV News, Global News, National Post, Toronto Sun, Toronto Star, Montreal Gazette. Nothing. Silence crickets, because you are all a bunch of corrupt hacks sucking at the government teat, and you will go down in history not just as failed enterprises, but as failed human beings. All right. Her Give, Send, Go. Let me get you the link to her Give, Send, Go so that everybody can, if you can support. And the problem is people are everybody's struggling. Let me see if I can get the Give, Send, Go here. I know it's in here somewhere. Hold on. Give, Send, Go. Kayla Pollock. Right here. Here's the link. Wait, imagine that. $1.4 billion. Why the hell would they cover it? Okay. Now, everybody, share the link out. We're live, and we're going to have a fun one today because we're going to cover some French. We're going to go over a very interesting decision coming out of Quebec. Whether or not it's going to have broader repercussions, I think it will, because I think class action lawsuits are the way to go when dealing with the censorship. I need to go back to some of my old YouTube chicanery videos and pick out the point, because this was the solution I was proposing a while back. That class action for damages from censorship is going to be the way to go after these companies, especially in jurisdictions that are not big tech friendly, or at the very least are more prone to protecting the rights of the lowly people. But before we even get into that, I want to play something, because I'm trying new stuff on the channel. And I put out it's a short one, and you'll tell me now. I'm going to put out a poll, and you're going to tell me whether or not you like it. You might have gotten the notification. I probably shouldn't have published it quite so close. I'm going to go like this, and I'm going to bring it up so we can see it, and you're going to tell me. I'm going to run a poll if you like this or not. So I don't really, I say I'm going to run a poll anyhow, but then the question is going to be, even if you don't, I think I'm still going to do it because I think I like this edit. Check this out here. Look. Trump trial update, the news of the day. Judge Juan Marchand, who's totally not corrupt, whose daughter is totally not an executive at a PR firm that's representing Adam Schiff, Democrat political action committees, having worked with Kamala Harris' 2020 campaign, raising millions of dollars for the company and for the clients she represents because of this very prosecution. That judge, Juan Marchand, just found Trump to be in contempt of court for the 10th time today. You will not believe the charge for which Judge Juan Marchand just found Trump guilty of contempt of court. I'll read it for you, because you won't believe it if I don't read it for you. From the judgment, by virtue of an interview defendant gave on April 22nd, 2024 at approximately 6:00 p.m. to a program called Just the News, No Noise, which is broadcast on a network called Real America's Voice. Among other things, defendant stated, quote, "You know, the judge is rushing this trial like crazy. Nobody's ever seen a thing go like this. The jury was picked so fast, 95% Democrat." Was that too loud? I noticed some people saying they are using, I noticed people saying, "Rest in peace, Mike." So I will not play the whole thing. I'll give you all the link. Do you like that? I put in a poll. It says, me likey, yes or no. Link, bada bing, bada boom. Okay, good. Now we're done with that. Go check it out. Share it, because what's going on in that Trump trial is an absolute flipping outrage. We'll cover the morning's worth of inner city press tweets over on the Rumble side. We're going to start on the YouTube side with the class action lawsuit coming out of Canada. But first, actually, Me Likey Dad. Does everybody know the song by Lonely Island? Me Likey Dad. When your mom, what is that? What's the song? Oh, it's a song. Into anything. And because I am an idiot and forgot to do the sponsor yesterday, they're going to get a sponsor and a half, because the links were in the pinned comment yesterday. I forget what I got distracted by. It's probably because I wasn't focusing, because I wasn't on a good, nutritious diet, or I hadn't had my energy drink. Let me see here. I got to just text my wife. Now we need oil in the car, but more important than oil in the car is nutrition in your body. What if I told you that you could replace your energy drinks with your multivitamins, coffee, et cetera, with a supplemental intake in one product? It's one product saving you money and making you feel incredible. Organ meat, people. And don't do it the way I do it. If anybody's seen my video where I did the bison balls, don't do it like that. You've likely heard the chatter about the benefits of beef organs, but until you've experienced bison organs, you don't know anything about it. And by the way, don't do it either like that liver guy. Cook it if you're going to do it, or a supplement where you don't actually have to eat the organ meat. Why bison? Because it's the leanest, most nutritious, dense, cleanest meat source, revered for centuries for its unmatched makeup of minerals, vitamins, and protein. Hormone-free, vaccine-free, grass-fed, and finished. No GMOs, additives, or fillers. It doesn't get cleaner or closer to the source than Bison Trifecta from the Wellness Company. A revolution in nutritional science, the indigenous people knew how to harness the raw, untapped energy of bison organs, and now you can experience it for yourself. Pure, ethically sourced bison in its most bioavailable form. Freeze-dried in a convenient capsule, Bison Trifecta takes the magic of the heart, liver, and kidneys and combines them into a powerful blend that can help elevate your athletic performance, improve digestion, shift your mood, reduce inflammation, and all the other good stuff. Take them as a daily capsule, or crack them open and sprinkle them onto your meals, or sneak it into the kids' meals if you want to do it that way. But do yourself a favor and make sure you find a way to add Bison Trifecta to your life. Your body will thank you. Go to twc.health/Viva. They've got a number of products. They've got the Contagion Kit, the Spike Kit, and now they've got Bison Protein Supplement, and it's a great company. The link is in the description. Booyah. Oh, lordy. Don't do it the way I did it, people. I got bison balls. Like, I mean, actual testicles. Let me see, actually, while we're on the subject. Hold on a second. Google Viva Frei bison balls YouTube. How to prepare and cook. Don't do it this way. Get the capsule. It'll be much easier. Watch this.
Switch to Chrome.
You might want to vomit a little bit if you watch this, and especially if you watch the entire thing. But more important than that, look at this. Turn the volume down here. Look at this. It's not often we get exotic foods that we actually haven't ever tasted before. Tonight is one of those nights. Look at this thing, by the way. Big. Admittedly, the packaging does not make it look.
Are we eating a foot?
We've had amourettes before. Amourette is like. We've never had the amourette of a bison. It is actually. It's quite disgusting. This is the amourette. I'll tell you in a second. This is the amourette of a bison. The guy that we buy meat from said that he had a bunch of bison balls lying around the freezer because that's where I should have gotten suspicious. Sir, meat dealer, why do you have leftover bison balls? Nobody had purchased them. And he said he would bring he said he would bring them over. He brought over the bison balls. Okay, so anyways, that's don't do it that way, people. TWC.health/Viva and get bison ground up into a powder so you don't have to handle big, bloody bison balls. All right, link if anybody wants to go watch that. All right, now we're getting into the good stuff of the show, people. And look, it's gonna be a trip down memory lane for my pour mon français. On va traduire une décision juridique qui provient de la Québec de Montréal. We're gonna translate in real time a decision coming out of Quebec. Now, actually, got to give credit to the proposed class representative, Eloise Bois. I'm going to bring this all up here. I'll share her Twitter handle afterwards as well, because the news comes across my feed yesterday. Viva, did you hear that a class action was authorized against YouTube and Google for, this is ironic that we're covering it on YouTube, for COVID censorship? And I'm like, holy crab apples, if that's true, that's very big news. And I'm skeptical. I'm reluctant. You know, over the weekend, someone sends me a link and it says, hey, they're charging an exit tax of $25,000 on Canadians. I'm like, okay, that sounds interesting. I got to double check. And lo and behold, not accurate. This turned out to be true. And we're going to go through the decision because it's all in French. I shared it on our vivabarneslaw.locals.com community. And I said, look, if anybody has good OCR recognition and wants to translate this, I think it should be done as a service regardless. In the legal community in Quebec, it's a French province, and that's, if you want to live there, that's it. Those are the rules. But there's no English version out yet, and so I translated the conclusion. But we're going to walk through it and just have a little fun because it's a good decision. There is a proposed class action against Google and YouTube for COVID censorship, and do we do the spoiler at the end? Now we'll go through this here. Eloise Bois. Now hold on one second. I'm going to show her Twitter feed real quick so that we don't lose this. Twitter. I think her handle is Hello veut savoir. Hello veut savoir. Here we go. This is her handle, and I'll show everybody so everybody can go follow her. I think some of her stuff is in French, some of it's in English. Hello veut savoir means hello wants to know. Veut savoir. Follows me, I follow her. We've been messaging, and she's going to come on to talk about this sooner than later. Ma questionne sur plein de sujets. I question a lot of subjects. Certains tabous, some taboos. I question a lot of subjects. Some are taboo, others less so. Je veux croire qu'on vivra notre futur dans un monde libre. I want to believe that we're going to live our future in a free world. So that's Eloise veut savoir. Here's her Twitter handle. Bada bing, bada boom. Now, let's bring up the decision and let's walk through this because it's interesting. You get one. It just takes one good judge. Although I don't know what's going to happen on appeal. This might go to appeal and it might get overturned. And it's not any form of a success on the merits. All that this decision says, coming from the Superior Court, the judge is l'Honorable Lucas Grenogic. All that this decision says is that the defendants, Google, LLC, their motion to dismiss, to strike the class action fails. It can move forward because there's a legitimate question to be had here. So let's, if anybody wants a French class today, you're going to get it. And I'll try to do it fast so that it's not too boring. It says, la demanderesse souhaite exercer une action collective pour représenter le groupe suivant. And I'll stop reading in French because you all know that I can speak French. Okay, fine. The plaintiff wants to exercise or wants to proceed with a class action. Action collective in Quebec, in Canada, is a class action to represent the following group, because bear in mind, in a class action, you have to have the group to be represented as the class. And this says any person, physical or moral, so that would be individual or company, who used or visited YouTube since March 15, 2020, while they were a resident in Quebec or had an establishment in Quebec. So I would, in theory, fit that definition, even though I'm no longer there. At the time I was. And at the time, I think I was complaining about the My Sharona Cyrus censorship on the YouTubes. Okay, hold on, bring it back here. All right, and there we go. Paragraph 2. She is looking for, essentially, compensatory damages and punitive damages for every person who, in the context of the COVID-19 pandemic, was censored, but also for all people who could not take cognizance of videos that were censored. This is sort of like Joe Neerman, Good Logic's contestation of the gag order for Trump. His argument for ungagging Trump is not that it only violates Trump's First Amendment rights to speak. It violates everyone else's First Amendment rights to hear Trump speak. So when they censor a video from, let's just say, Kayla Pollock on YouTube, or they censor a Dan Hartman story on YouTube, which they did, or in my case, they censor a Francis Christian interview, which they did, told me it was medical. They told me, hold on, let me rail here for a second. YouTube told me that Dr. Francis Christian, an interview that I gave with him, where he was talking to me from his own medical professional experience, YouTube told me that what Dr. Francis Christian said was medical misinformation. So now, it's not just a question of preventing people from speaking, but it's also about preventing people from hearing what needs to be said. There are people out there who may not know about Kayla Pollock's story because people are reluctant to post it on YouTube, the indirect censorship, or it was posted on YouTube, suppressed, censored, and people didn't get to hear it. All right. And then we get the context. This is like, you're going to see this. La défendresse exploite un médium social appelé YouTube. The plaintiff, she's a YouTuber. She's got she shares videos, yada, yada, yada. She has a YouTube channel called Hello veut savoir, and she alleges that she was censored. Elle allègue avoir été censurée par la défendresse pour avoir publié des vidéos qui, selon un règlement de YouTube, auraient propagé des informations médicales incorrectes. She got censored for publishing videos on YouTube because it violated a YouTube rule which prohibited sharing information, medical disinformation, that contradicts that of the WHO. In French, it's Organisation Mondiale de Santé, the WHO, the World Health Organization, regarding COVID. And then she gives a few examples. And I think we're going to skip through this pretty quickly because it's going to be pretty painful to go through this. Not everybody wants the legal tests. Though there's a funny anecdote here. It says, en ce qui concerne le droit, je retiens le résumé fait par Judge Biche dans l'arrêt Tessier. There was a Supreme Court justice named Biche. I forget what her first name was now. And they called her the Biche on the bench because she was a very powerful, opinionated woman. Biche, it's not bitch, but that was the joke, the bitch on the bench. They called her Biche on the bench. So here we go. We're going through the criteria to be allowed to be authorized to file a class action lawsuit. And it says, according to the teachings of the Supreme Court, the four conditions to allow for the authorization or the filing of a class action lawsuit, they have to be interpreted in a liberal, delicate, and generous fashion with the objective of facilitating and even promoting class action recourses. Véhicule d'accès à la justice, moyen d'atteindre, the procedural vehicle to attain justice in cases where it's not always that easy to obtain because there's small amounts, many people, etc., etc. And it says here, paragraph 26, c'est ainsi qu'une seule question commune peut suffire à la satisfaire l'exigence. It says one common question can satisfy the criteria for filing class action lawsuit under the section of our code there. If it permits to advance the debate or to favoriser, to allow for settling d'une manière non négligeable sans qu'on doive nécessairement y apporter une réponse commune. If it can help resolve a question without necessarily bringing us a collective answer. And the bottom line, I mean, look, we can go through this. You got all of these criteria for filing class action lawsuits. You got to have a common question. You've got to have a definable class. You've got to have the standard criteria for allowing class action lawsuits. And then when we go here, we're going with, they're going through all of the case law. Very, very boring. Imagine doing this for a living, people. And you got to go through this. How far? And we're not even going to. Oh, paragraph 14, it says, La demandeuse invoque principalement qui contrôle le contenu effectif. The plaintiff is principally arguing that the control carried out by YouTube as relates to the COVID-19 pandemic constitutes an unlawful and deliberate attack on freedom of expression guaranteed by the Charter of Rights and Liberties in Canada. That's pretty, I mean, it's amazing. They're saying, like, look, you were censoring and violating our First Amendment rights, or we don't have First Amendment, but your charter rights, which binds corporations. And let's just see here, paragraph 15. This is the argument from Google. Google plaide qu'elle n'a commis aucune infraction à la charte. Google says we didn't violate any provision of the charter. That Google has no obligation to provide a space to share videos, regardless of their content. It's a private platform. It applies its own rules. And that the plaintiff can exercise her free speech rights in another manner. And that she would not have suffered any meaningful consequence to justify the damages that she's claiming. But basically, I mean, it's sort of like mutatis mutatis, what they're arguing in the States. We're a private company. We can do whatever the hell we want. So we don't have to respect your First Amendment rights under the Constitution because we're not a government entity. Although the argument is being made now in a number of cases that when you do the government's bidding through hook or crook, coercion, or inducement, then you become a state actor that might be bound by the Constitution. In Canada, it's a little broader. And incidentally, by the way, the reason why Kayla Pollock could sue Moderna in Canada, whereas people are having problems suing Pfizer and Moderna in the States, we didn't have a PrEP Act. They didn't get immunity. They got indemnity clauses in their contracts. So there's a bit more of a window to sue pharma in Canada, and people are using it. And there's a bit more of a window to sue big tech in Canada, and now Eloise is using it. And I think we're going to skip the rest and just go down to the end here because you go through all of these, the principles, and then you go through the suppression of videos on YouTube. I mean, we know the story. They were doing it. They were suppressing content on YouTube for information that, in fact, turned out to be accurate information. 3 years ago, they said, no, this is medical disinformation. Oh, you say masks don't work? Oh, well, that's disinformation. Oh, 3 years later, they say, yeah, we knew they weren't going to do very much. So you go through the whole thing. I'm not going to translate it. What do we got here? Let's see here. Oh, what's this? Oh, gosh, I'm seeing like sections of the code that I haven't seen in a long time. Oh, look at this. She's raising the argument that I was suggesting they raise. The plaintiff is also invoking la loi sur la protection du consommateur. What is it? The Consumer Protection Act, the CPA. Now, the reason why some people don't fit into the Consumer Protection Act is if you use Google as a business, you're not a consumer, you're basically a business. So she's invoking the Consumer Protection Act, which interdit la stipulation par laquelle un commerçant se dégage de ses conséquences de son fait personnel. In the Consumer Protection Act, it says that a merchant cannot absolve themselves of the responsibility of their deliberate actions. So you can't do something deliberately and then say in your contract, you won't hold me responsible for the deliberate conduct that I engage in. Okay, we're going to go down here. 54.4, avant la conclusion. Oh, this is when you sign a contract at a distance. Is this about when they're signing off on the terms and whether or not they can circumvent the terms? Yada, yada, yada. Scrolling all the way down. Let's get to the group. That there is a definable group. Pourtant, le syllogisme. So basically they're saying here, they're going to modify the group so that it corresponds to the allegations of the claim in the following manner. Toute personne, any person, physical or more, that's going to be an individual or a company, who used or visited YouTube since March 15, 2020, and saw their videos directly or indirectly on the pandemic censored, or who wanted to take cognizance of videos that were censored, could not do so, basically, while they were residents of Quebec, or had an establishment there. And then let's get to the conclusion because it's good. And then the representant, adequate representation. Can the plaintiff represent the group? They can. Conclusion. And if you're in our locals community or you follow me on Twitter, you would have already seen this by now. Si Google, this is fantastic. Si Google gère et contrôle le contenu se retrouvant sur son plateforme, YouTube. If Google controls, manages and controls the content that is found on YouTube, and if it poses certain acts in that sense, it cannot deny all responsibility. If it censors or impedes certain people from posting videos, or censors or impedes other people from watching those videos, elle entrave ainsi la libre circulation des idées et s'expose à devoir défendre ses façons de faire. It is impeding on the free circulation and exchange of ideas, and it exposes itself to defending how it goes about doing it. Its decision might be well-founded, and maybe it will not incur its responsibility. We're here. Mais la question se pose, but the question is nonetheless a legitimate question, and it is patently obvious that the plaintiff possesses a simple possibility of success on the merits. Enfin, toutes les autres questions relatives aux avis, and then the other questions related to the notices, publications, and the costs, yada, yada, yada. All right, bam. Pour ces motifs, le tribunal, this is in the French version of, for these reasons, the court orders, accueille, grants the plaintiff's claim, authorizes the exercise, or authorizes the filing, authorizes the exercise of a class action in damages, compensatory and punitive, and an injunction, a prohibitive injunction in the District of Montreal. And I presume that prohibitive injunction is don't censor the videos anymore. Attribue à la demanderesse Héloïse, attribute to the plaintiff Héloïse Bois the status of representative for the purposes of the class action, the proposed class action for and on behalf of the following people as described here, the group, and we went over that before, identifies the following principal questions of fact and law that will be dealt with collectively. Oh, this is good. Les règles de conflit de droit international privé, the rules of international conflict, the rules of resolution of international, les règles de conflit de droit international privé québécois, the rules of international conflict of private Quebec law, must they be disregarded in whole or in part in virtue of section 3076 of the Civil Code of Quebec? Let me go and refresh my memory. 3076 CCQ. That law, 3076, the rules contained in this book apply subject to those rules of law in force in Quebec, which are applicable by reason of their particular object. That's section 3076 of the Civil Code. Okay, that's one part. I've lost where I was here. Let's go back. Now I'm losing everything. Ah, wait, down. Il est où le jugement? Okay, then question number B. The Quebec courts, do they have jurisdiction to hear this case? With regards to sections of jurisdiction in the Civil Code. Foreign law, le droit étranger, foreign law, must it be excluded and Quebec law applied in whole or in part in virtue of sections 3080 of the Civil Code? So bottom line, are we excluding foreign law and applying Quebec law to this class action? Advenant que les règles de YouTube sont applicables. In the case that the rules, YouTube's rules are applicable, the following clauses, must these following clauses be annulled because they are abusive and contrary to public order? Those permitting the defendant, Google, to control the content deemed reprehensible, problematic with respect to the COVID-19 pandemic, and those granting a limitation or an exoneration of responsibility of Google. More questions. The rules of YouTube and their application, do they violate in an unjustified manner freedom of expressions for any members of the group? If that's the case, is it illegal and intentional? That's item G. Le contrôle du contenu effectué par YouTube est-il comportement fautif générateur de responsabilité? Is the conduct of Google or YouTube fault? Is it a fault that incurs their responsibility? The fault of the defendant, is it intentional? Can the defendant exclude or limit its responsibility under the sections of our Civil Code, which exclude or limit liability, and the sections of the Consumer Protection Act? Let's see here. So Section 272 of the Consumer Protection Act, does it allow for the authorization of punitive damages, given the fact that Google or YouTube allegedly might have violated the following sections of the Consumer Protection Act? Holy crap, there's a lot of questions here. What amount of compensatory damages is due to the members? depending on whether or not their content was censored or they were censored from viewing it, what is the quantum of punitive damages awarded to the members? And then, okay, forgotten here. Identifie comme suit les questions, conclusion, recherche qui s'attiche. Okay, and then we're going into the damages to order the defendant to pay to every one of the members, yada, yada, yada. $1,000 in damages, compensatory damages with interest. $1,000 punitive damages with interest. What do we got here? $500 compensatory damages. Oh, so then you want $1,000 for those who were censored and $500 for those who were denied the ability to see. Punitive and compensatory. And then you say, ordonner que la réclamation des membres fasse l'objet d'une... Okay, so then or authorize a collective payment, reconvene the parties within 30 days of final judgment to determine the modalities of repayment, and that's it. Le tout avec frais, all with interest, yada, yada, yada. And that's it. That's the decision. Lucas Granozic. I'm gonna go out on a limb and say Lucas Granozic is a young judge. Let me see if I can find this judge. That's the decision, people. I hope everyone, well, first of all, I hope we're all still here. I can't see myself. Okay, I hope everyone enjoyed the lesson in French. Lucas Granozic. I'm saying this guy's going to be a young judge. Lucas Granozic, Quebec judge. Oh, he was appointed in 2014. No. Let's see here. The Honorable Lucas Granozic, a lawyer with Norton Rose. Okay, so let me bring this out here. Fasken Martineau was the attorneys for the defendant. Fasken Martineau is a big law firm. Norton Rose is a very, very well-known, very reputable law firm in Canada, and they do a lot of IP. So that's interesting that the judge with an experience in IP, for anybody who cares, would render that decision. Bachelor of Science, yeah, Bachelor of Law, 1993. So he's 15 years older than me. Okay, so he's not that young. And it looks like he was appointed, give or take, in 2014. So he's been on the bench for darn near a decade. Okay, that's cool. And that's the decision. Here's hoping that this judge doesn't suddenly lose his appointment. No, they're appointed for life in Canada. So he has to do something very, very bad to be removed from the bench. And oh my goodness, it doesn't ever happen. So that's the good news coming out of Quebec, I guess, a little silver lining. And before we get into the, I'm going to go to the chat here over on Rumble and see what's going on here. If anything interesting. Is there who's, let's see here. Stormy Fat Tits seems to be spamming. Let me see here. Yeah, that's going to be forever. I'm not, sorry guys. I just saw that. And I'm not even double checking to make sure that person who was spamming, I have diarrhea is a legit not spammer. All right. That's that. Now what we're going to do here, we're going to take the party on over to Rumble and we're going to just cover a few things from, oh my goodness. You're going to want to come over here. Link to Rumble. Bada bing, bada boom. If anybody wants to skip the line and come straight over to vivabarneslaw.locals.com, link to locals. And that's it. Tomorrow, by the way, before we leave off of YouTube, thank you to the sponsor, TWC. I always get this up on the website. It's twc.health/Viva. Yeah, the promo code. I forgot to tell you what the promo code gets. It's 10. What was it? Jeez Louise, I forgot to tell you. It's 10% off and free shipping. So thank you to the sponsor before we head on over to YouTube. Tomorrow, speaking of COVID and information and disinformation, Dr. Chris Martinson is coming on at 11. And then we've got a sidebar at 7. So it's going to be a double header, and it might be a triple header because I think I might be making my way to the local studio for a bit with Dr. Drew. Let me just see here that we got the confirmation. Jeremy Carl is confirmed for 7 o'clock tomorrow night. So 11, 7, and possibly something in between. With that said, people, if you're not coming over to Rumble, I don't know what you're doing with the rest of the day, but we are ending on YouTube. Thank the sponsor, link in the pinned comment, and let's take the party on over to the free speech platform, Rumble. And you will not believe what we're going to start with. Kathy Hochul being an overt racist.